know if the show started yet, but
Monomaniacs!
I wanted to bring
Damn it, Josh.
the Monomaniacs scream vibes.
Oh, okay.
Everyone comes in so chill every time. I wanted to get some screaming in to start.
You wanted some energy.
Yeah.
There you go.
I do not have to be anonymous. I'm not part of Q or anything like that. It's Josh Long from Goshen.
There we go. So are you insinuating that other members of your podcast are? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, people have gone through job changes. But on the other side, people have also used the podcast on their resume before too. So
okay, great. Yeah.
I've seen that
you
before.
have to like juggle life's hurdles, I think. You can call me Josh Long though. It's fine. I'm from Goshen.
Okay.
I am a host of the podcast Spoilers. We do movie reviews. Thanks for bringing that up nice and early. That was very
right
kind.
away. Yeah.
Well, what we wanted to talk about, part of what we wanted to talk about is Shad was talking to me. He's like, well, I've talked to Josh personally, and you haven't, but he's listened to you on a podcast and you've listened to him on a podcast. And so we have this weird pseudo relationship where I know your vibe off of the pod, and know the dynamic, but I don't know you. And so I was wondering, is that like equally weird for you in this instance? Like, how do you feel about this?
It is weird. I'm a videographer by trade. I'm an editor. And so anytime I'm doing like a mini documentary or commercial where it features one person that sometimes I didn't shoot, I often feel like I know that person. And sometimes I'll see that person in public and I'll be like, and then I'll just turn around and walk away because that's a really odd. I've edited with you for 8 hours. Like, there's no good way to put that. It makes everyone uncomfortable.
Really.
But
and honestly, is that more personal than a marriage? It might be.
Where one person just knows a hell of a lot about one. I think so.
Yeah.
But
or no, just the act of editing another person is what I mean. It's like sitting down and just like watching footage of them for 8 hours. Like that's
studying their face.
Exactly. Sorry, I interrupted you. What's going on?
No, it's not weird to hang out with you because I have met Shad. Not that you are Shad, but I know you're close kin. I've heard you a lot. I didn't know you listened to Spoilers, so that's cool.
Well, okay. Well, not only I've listened to a lot of Spoilers, so this is perfect. I'm caught up. Well, I haven't listened to all the backlog. Let me just say that I haven't listened to all the backlog, but I'm caught up into the recent stuff. So, I will say I do want to contribute to whatever financial institution can get Brett a new mic. Whatever financial institution can do that, I will contribute my entire salary for a year, whatever it takes.
I think this is all because you've never met Brett in person, and that's just what his voice sounds like. He sounds like Bad Mike. He just sounds like a tinny, in the distance dude, even when he's up close personal.
Yeah, he sounds like when he's talking to you, you sound like you're in a garage that's like, the size of a football stadium, but completely empty.
His
natural
evolution,
vocal reverb.
he has had an evolution. He had just earbuds like this that he talked. He like used this. Then he had one that was like a gamer one with like the thing that came down.
Dude.
That one was for a lot of episodes, and that was pretty bad. Yeah. I don't know what he has now.
That's a classic first upgrade podcast mic right there. I feel like, for a podcast that will not be released, I was on a podcast with Josh, not Spoilers. It'll never come out. But I feel like you asked me explicitly about headphone microphones.
I just needed to give Brett some recommendations. I was trying to get some Amazon links from you to send over to Brett from Fort Wayne.
Hell yeah. That was the most embarrassing part of that whole recording was when I said, I'm pretty sure Sony's got like a budget model microphone, and then your producer looked it up and they didn't. And I was like, all right, never mind.
The one thing about our podcast you could be confident of is that our producer Josh will not in any sense look up something to contradict you and say it explicitly because he doesn't look up things, period. I will say, though, you've listened to a lot of recent episodes, and he upped his game because he knows, that his time is short. So, the Andrew Fink episode, I think, he looked up a lot of stuff. I was very impressed.
Yes.
But not the norm here.
The quintessential Josh producer, from what I've seen, is you ask him to look something up, and he refuses from the distance. Is that wrong? Is that close?
That is very true.
That is 100% accurate.
I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
All right? Cool.
I do have something recently you had him look up, and I wanted to see if I could help set the record straight.
All right.
Okay,
You guys
go right
remember
ahead.
talking
Thank you.
about Spoon Man?
Yeah. Which we were debating whether or not that was Soundgarden or because I know it's Soundgarden, but it was Soundgarden versus who else did we think it was?
Chris,
I don't
you
know.
thought it was
Pearl Jam.
Eddie Vedder at first.
Yes.
And then you realized it was Chris Cornell on the vocals. And I just wanted to tell you, they were their first. I don't know if it was their first band, but before they made it big in Soundgarden and Pearl Jam, and then Audio Slave later, I guess, if you want to count that. But Chris Cornell and Eddie Vedder were in a band together called Temple of the Dog.
Yes.
I think they just have
there you go.
one album, so like they could definitely sound like each other. That was kind of like the whole. You felt embarrassed that you confused the two, and I was like, no, that kind of makes sense, especially if it was like early Chris Cornell, kind of borrowing some of the cadence from each other.
Yeah. So far, great guess.
I'm setting the record
Justifying-
straight here.
Yeah. Exactly.
Justifying Shad's
Justifying my
mistakes.
mistakes. I got a laundry.
Talking
an
shit
actual
about Josh
Yes.
is perfect.
Perfect.
Sorry.
Yeah, well,
Josh.
I'm glad that you could be on the show today. I think actually because this is going to come out this week, and I don't know what your guys' plan is, but I was on an episode of Spoilers upcoming, I guess.
Yeah.
I assume that's coming out next week or whatnot.
Yeah.
Or in
Spoilers.
6 months. I mean,
We recorded a 6-part series on The Godfather, just the first Godfather, 1972. It took us about 5.5 months to edit. We're releasing other episodes in the meantime, but we wanted to put like all 6 episodes out like in a row. So we had to get it all prepped. That took freaking forever, obviously, 5.5 months. So unfortunately, we recorded you right prior to releasing that. We're going to finish releasing Godfather, and I think your episode is the next one to go out. So it's just still,
Yeah,
this
well,
might
they might come
preempt
out the
that.
same day. Well,
Yeah.
who knows?
We can
'Cause
time
if
it.
it's well, if you guys are coming out Thursday, let's not talk too much shop here. But Thursday.
So I'm actually interested because this is very timely because this is all just happening. This will
Yeah.
come out. I guess the last episode of the Godfather retrospective is going to come out either tonight or tomorrow morning. I imagine.
Okay.
if it's the cadence continues,
If the cadence
'cause
continues.
Part 5 just came out today. This
Yes,
morning.
last
Yeah.
night actually.
Oh, last night?
Yes,
Yeah, well, there
I
you
started
go.
listening to it last night.
We've been doing one a day, except for
Yes.
the week. We skipped the weekend.
So what was the thought process behind the one a day thing? I thought that was, I was like, oh, just do it once a week. That way you guys don't have to worry about anything for 6 weeks.
We got a lot of positive feedback because we did the Lord of the Rings, all 3 movies with similar breakdowns. So we like Fellowship of the Ring. We broke it up into 7 parts, and it's pretty meticulous. It's a long time to spend talking on it. We recorded it over the course of several weeks, right? But when we released it, we got a lot of positive feedback that they loved that we dropped it all at the same time, so people could binge it at their pace. So one a day was kind of we wanted to try to just talk about talking shop here. We wanted to see if we could game the algorithm a little more by doing one a day rather than just dropping them all in one night.
So you
That's kind of the
launched
idea.
all of the Lord of the Rings parts at the same time.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot. Yeah.
That's
crazy.
Wait, for all 3 of the
A
movies?
dozen people loved it. Trust me.
Yeah.
But those dozen people really loved it.
Man, you got to love having a podcast. Yeah. Yeah. I remember you texted me because I was like, oh, yeah, when do you think my episode's going to come out? I was like, well, the Godfather episode's going to come out, and it's like 12 hours of mansplaining. And I'm like, God, I love this format. I love podcasting. It's great that there's dozens of people who want to sit down and be like, yeah, 100%. And now I consider myself among them. I've met you in person, but now I've started to develop. I originally, and this is how I usually go with podcasts, I listen to the episodes of the person I want to hear or I know or I've heard on another podcast. So I go through and I'm like, okay, let's listen to all the Josh appearances. And I'm like, all right, I think I know the guys enough. It's time for me to break away. So I would consider myself a fan in that respect. But this show, Monomaniacs, is ostensibly about something. It has gone through phases of being more or less
About a thing.
about a thing,
Yeah.
which I'm sure that you've appreciated.
Gotten a sense of.
I felt misled for a while, but we're good now. I know what it's. I think I know what it's about.
It's more about the principle of being a monomaniac. And that monomania has shifted away from the show having a monomania theme in some ways. But usually, at least especially early on, we have people on to kind of talk about something that they're interested in. And we've kind of moved away from that a little bit. But you prep something, at least last time we chatted. You don't need to be committed to this. So if there's something that you actually do want to bring to the table as what you're working through right now, what you're passively trying to understand, then we'd be happy to hear about it.
Yeah, we'd love to.
Yeah. Is this outside of any Chris Cornell, Eddie Vedder sort of music things? Like, can it be on any topic, or does it have to be
any topic?
Grunge?
Well,
it doesn't have to be 90s grunge.
Having been a listener, as you are, you know that 95% of our podcast is just grunge from the 90s.
Yes.
We did a breakdown of Screaming Trees' entire discography,
which was a total of a year of our podcast.
A year of the podcast.
The year of the Screaming Trees.
The year of the Screaming Trees.
Mansplaining Screaming Trees.
Mansplaining Screaming Trees.
And people hated it.
Oh,
but
truly.
we just kept going.
We kept it going because it's about commitment.
It's about the passion of it.
I was thinking about prequel talks with you guys because I love it when you get into that. But
the prequel movies, the Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
I'm down. Yeah, I'm down to talk shop in regards to that because we had one of our resident Star Wars experts on earlier today because we had to record another episode today. Samuel Roberts, and
he was very upset that Vince Cagnate, who I imagine you listened to that episode, called him Salacious Crumb. He was the guy he called Salacious Crumb.
Yes,
this is terrible.
I did hear that.
One of our Patreon episodes is doing a bracket breakdown of the Star Wars films, where we have all of the Star Wars films seeded worst to best, according to a list on IGN. So who knows really how good the list is, and then moving from there.
Would you actually, I'm curious, just a direct question, because I don't know if this comes across super strong. I know that you guys have at least one Star Wars super fan on the show, that being Kylo. But what is are you okay with this revisionism that people are doing right now? Are you okay with the claiming the prequels are good? Because I mean, if I'm not wrong, I know.
No, just revision in general.
In general, no. But the prequel revisionism, the prequels are actually good thing. What's your impression? Because I feel like your generation kind of got hit a little stronger by that.
Dude, don't you think that it makes you feel like you live in a Looney Tune verse with the way that has all unfolded? I feel like I heard you explain this, but basically it's like Gen Z, the Zoomies, started up like, haha, these prequels are good, aren't they? And then they they just became so nostalgic for it. I think it just turned actually good for them. And that took a long time for me to wrap my brain around. I loved it when you re-explained it to me. It just felt good to hear someone say it because I've witnessed it and it's been kind of horrifying or something.
And the parasocial relationship talons, they grew even further. There is
tighter and tighter.
I'm curious because I probably brought this up, but there's this general principle now, especially in like the online YouTube essay community and stuff, where people are like, everything that you thought was bad is good. It's like everything's good now. And at this point, I'm starting to kind of lose more.
X movie, X video game that flopped.
10 reasons why Leon the Professional isn't problematic. Right? Yeah. Like it's back. It's good again. It's fine.
I think somebody on your show gave those 10 reasons to the best of their ability.
Needs its own YouTube channel. But Shad, before we get too deep into it, I didn't want to obfuscate completely. I did want to talk about something specifically.
Okay.
And if this can transition into perhaps some prequel talks, some Star Wars, I could see it leading to Naboo or Dagobah maybe by the end of it. We'll see if we get there. But when I first thought of this podcast and thought it was still all about just saying what you're obsessed with now.
Yeah.
What I thought that what that made me bring up inside myself was gardening. I've started this little berry garden on one side of my house.
Wow, okay.
I got a couple types of raspberries, a couple types of currants, blackberries, a couple other ones.
Just to paint the picture, what is your not? This is going to come across as classist, I think. What is your housing situation? What kind of square footage do you have for a garden?
What are your grounds like?
Who's your groundskeeper?
Well, let me list every other plant in my garden first. So
Okay, go
there's
ahead, yeah.
no, I'm joking. That was a very good interruption, actually, just for the show, I think.
Yeah.
So I live on like a half acre in a neighborhood, classic ranch style thing.
Oh yeah.
Man, Josh Long from Goshen, they're really going to start zeroing in on me at this point, but that's fine. I got a pretty shady house. A lot of people who live in northern Indiana and southern Michigan, as you guys know, it's basically a forest if left to itself. Yeah. So a lot of shade. So like my wife does hostas. That's kind of her thing. And they're kind of will survive anything. Half shade, full sun at times. So those like line our property. So that's kind of the yin and yang of us with our yard work. She loves flowers and I love trying to grow like food and stuff like that.
So what
kind of masculine urge to grow a berry out of the ground?
I don't know.
Is that masculine?
To gather?
I hope
I don't know.
To gather and not to hunt? I don't know.
I think there was that whole Nat Geo thing where they were like, actually the roles were reversed. There's been this discussion about that. But
like lions, the females hunted?
Yes, that was the claim.
Go.
And that, that they're like they were using like skeletal structure, kind of borderline phrenological, esque stuff to justify the position. But I don't know. I guess
is
the question
phrenology
is
good as long as you don't go deep into it, just on a certain level of phrenology. But as soon as you go one extra step, it's like terrifying.
I think you could say that about a lot of things.
Yeah. So at what point does it like what's the red line on that? I'm very curious what your opinion is. Is it okay to be like that guy's got a big forehead? It's not okay to be like that means he's going to do crime.
He's got a glinty look in his eye. I think I know what this means.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it's.
Is it over there?
It's over there. It's behind the printer, but I have a phrenology bust.
Oh my gosh!
And not because I in any way ascribe to the beliefs of the phrenologist, but a friend of mine was at a thrift store, and then he just came home and had it, and we were living. He was my roommate, and he came home with it and was like, I saw this and I thought, who's the only guy who'd appreciate this? And I'm like, I have no idea what you're trying to tell me right now.
What is that supposed to mean?
What is that supposed to mean? What?
Talking about how women's.
Oh, go ahead.
If you mind if I go down this rabbit hole a little bit.
No, go right ahead. Go right ahead.
I wish I could remember more of this article. I think it was like a Nat Geo article I read, but it's basically about these footprints they found where a place had been sandy and had since grown into rock, and it was human footprints. And they were so far apart that they didn't understand. Like they thought maybe like the rocks when they like petrified, they like spread out or something. Because like why would these footprints be so far apart? No, these dudes were running so incredibly fast. Their paces were like ungodly far apart, and they were just they didn't even have shoes. It was probably like rough terrain. They're probably like looking for something too. They're not just race. It's not just like they heard a starting gun go and they're like off to the races.
They're
they didn't
something.
Stretch. They didn't do any. They didn't do any like baths. They don't do any ice baths back then. I'm pretty sure to like
there was
cool
no
down.
Cold plunge.
Yeah, I love that shit, and I love thinking of like women out there just getting after it too. It's awesome. It seriously is awesome.
I think the thing that always is been cool for me is the idea that our primary focus when hunting was to out exhaust an animal, right? Like that is metal as hell, right? The idea that you would bear down on something for so long that they could not outrun you out of sheer exhaustion, right? It's like, I cannot go any further. My only choice is to die. I don't know. That sounds... Yeah, being on the other side of that, like imagine you were the prey in that situation. That is the scariest shit in the entire world. I can't even imagine it. But
the human lungs and the way we sweat are like apparently really unique. I like to say that lungs give us wings. It's not actually Red Bull. I'm still working on that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys want to help me.
Yeah. Maybe you should get a job at the lung concern. You know.
Do we have to mention
podcast.
Red Bull every time?
Yeah. Speaking of this is going to go somewhere. But speaking of sweating, stretching, and cold plunging, Lenny Kravitz got interviewed by the Wall Street Journal this week.
Okay.
And he went viral the other day because there's a video of him bench pressing in leather pants, which, I have recently started kind of my own fitness journey. I'm going to
Congratulations.
Fitness journey.
Yeah.
Through my job, they offer this daily exercise routine thing. So I've been doing that and, wearing basketball shorts and a t-shirt, it's game over. Sweat like a pig. It's, I got to take a shower afterwards. But just bench pressing in leather pants, like getting up and being like, I'm still Lenny Kravitz. It's out of control.
Is that a syndrome like when someone goes to like some sort of landmark or like an amusement park or a concert and they don't go in? They just take a picture, like a selfie, like they were there. Is that what he's doing? Is he just acting like he bench presses a lot, or does he legitimately every day?
They ask him in the article about that, and he was like, no, I'm such a fitness freak that if I'm in the city or something and I don't have an opportunity to change, it does not matter. I will still do my reps no matter what I'm wearing. And he's Lenny Kravitz. This is a man who wears the tightest pants imaginable and, mesh shirts. I can imagine that the mesh shirts make it a lot easier.
True. Those breathe very well.
Super well.
He's got to think about like how many hours a day can he waste spending taking the pants on and off too. Like they're so tight. Like
in one's lifetime, the amount of time wasted on taking leather pants off.
Especially since
in years.
Leather when it gets wet, it contracts.
Yeah, it's sticky as hell.
Yeah, that's
he should have just told the truth. He's like, baby, I can't take these off.
I've had these on since 72. They're not coming off.
These are the same pants I was wearing in the Flyaway music video. Oh man,
oh goodness.
Yeah, that's probably why his pants ripped open at that show. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, vaguely. I did hear about that.
The Lenny Kravitz story, where he was playing and his pants ripped open and his penis fell out, and he just kept playing for like an hour.
That's confidence. I don't know.
Yeah.
No one really made fun of him afterward. It was just he was able to rock it.
Yeah. Good job, Mr. Kravitz.
Yeah. To bring it back,
I just want to cap this off. We're ripping on him a lot. We're all kind of just jealous of Lenny. It'd be nice to be Lenny, and I'm not.
I wish I could pull off leather pants on a regular basis. To be honest, I wish I could do it. Yeah.
Yeah. He drives a motorcycle around the Bahamas like 8 hours a day. So, I mean, and what are we doing?
We're sitting here.
He's recording a podcast.
He's a rock star, literally.
Yes. He recorded 2 of the worst hit singles in American music history. And he's wearing leather pants.
Come on now. I like that thing where rock stars are always like they want to be athletes, and athletes are always like they want to be rock stars. I don't know why that reminds
movie stars.
If he wants to be an athlete, though, he should probably think about trainers and more like practical.
No, but that's the way he gets in. That's the way he gets in. That's how he captures the American heart. That's 50% of being an athlete, right? Is capturing the American spirit.
I just realized I forgot to mention why I even thought of Lenny Kravitz in the first place. There's this whole section about him doing cold plunges. I was like, oh, sweat? Leather pants? No. You mentioned cold plunging. I was like, oh, even Lenny Kravitz, I guess he listens to Joe Rogan too.
Oh, goodness. All right, so to bring it back to the garden. Okay.
The berries. Not Lenny Kravitz's berries.
No.
Separate berries.
Yes, those are open for all to see. So what was sort of the catalyst? What started you down this journey?
The berry street,
as it were.
He ripped his pants and the ham and beans came out.
That's what I've heard.
I don't know if I can move on quite yet. It's just it was everything.
I've seen
it's just like a hole
photo.
peering in. Okay.
I know. So like I've seen a censored photo, and it looks
worried for poor Letty.
It looks like the entire. Actually, producer Josh, have we get a look at that?
No.
He's getting.
Why does he always refuse?
Come on. We pay this man 6 figures and he can't look it up.
Can't look it up. From what I've seen, it looks like his entire pant leg is basically ripped, like the entire crotch and most of one pant leg.
Okay.
Like you would have to, you would have to be doing splits in the tightest pants imaginable, which I'm pretty sure is what happened to do something like that. So yeah, no, it was the whole shebang, based on my research.
Okay.
Which
me a serious
promises
question.
is small.
Yeah.
A short amount of research. Did not spend several hours.
I assure you.
In the middle of a day at a work day on his work computer.
If any sort of governmental organization is watching this right now for building its case, I did not spend any time on the Lenny Kravitz photo leaks. I'm curious actually, what was the general pop culture impression? Because I guess we were very young when American Woman came out. Gosh, his terrible cover of American Woman. What was the Lenny Kravitz sensation? When he broke the pop charts. How are people feeling?
We might start hearkening back to 90s grunge here, but
Yeah.
I think if I remember when I first heard him on the scene, it was that feeling like, was he like already in a classic rock band and now there's like a timeless feel to it, right? Like I felt like he already had some sort of back catalog and this is his new thing. But
yeah, he kind of brought based on what I've seen, he kind of like brought rock and roll sort of back, kind of. I don't know. It never really came back.
To your local pop station, it came back for a little bit.
Exactly.
No.
Exactly.
Good way to phrase it.
I mean, I think that he kind of misses the point of American Woman, because I don't think that he's ever told a woman not to walk his way before. Like when you look at him performing and stuff, you're like, okay. But when you who is it? Who wrote that song originally?
The Who?
No, it's not The Who. It's
the Guess Who.
Maybe it's the Guess. Is it the Guess Who? They're Canadian. Maybe it's the Guess Who.
Will Josh look this up?
Oh, yeah.
Who wrote American Woman?
I will. Yes. Yeah. Are you even listening, Josh? He just asked what song he should be looking up. Yeah. No. If you look at that, the Guess Who, you're right. Correct.
Guess Who.
You're right.
You got it.
We should have just
1 point for Josh.
1 point for Josh.
Put it up on the board.
Yeah. Get ready for the second half.
Not
actually.
you, Josh. Not producer Josh.
Yeah.
This is for podcast Josh.
Yeah. This is for
Get
Josh
out
Long.
of here. Yeah.
Yeah. We have to call you by your last name just by virtue of there being two Joshes in this
That's
room.
fine.
Or we just call him Goshen.
Yeah. Goshen. Mr.
Hey,
Goshen.
Goshi. What's up?
Josh Gosh.
Yeah. Oh no.
If you look at photos of the Guess Who, though, they all look like guys who would tell a woman, like just because they're just all like mustached and bearded and mopped haired, and like they look like guys who just got off of a beer league hockey game and are playing you a song, and you're like, yeah, I get it. You're Canadians. Get away, American Woman. But Lenny Kravitz, you're like, I don't buy this. I don't buy this from you, Mr. Leatherpants.
He's doing it for the sex, drugs, rock and roll, women,
Yes.
that sort of thing.
Yes,
But that's
yes.
why
The
we
four
all like
virtues.
rock stars.
Yeah.
That is why
You
we
guys
like
don't
rock
like
stars.
fly? You guys don't want to get away? You don't want to fly away? You don't like that? That's one of the worst pop songs of all time. Is that what you said?
I will stand by that. That song sucks. I'm going to stand by that. It's unfocused. It's weird. I don't know.
Those harmonies. Yeah. Come on.
True. That gets me
Come
every single
on.
time. Yeah. Come on, Shad.
I'm a sucker for harmonies, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same, fam. And that's why I would say 50% of my Spotify playlist is songs that I like one harmony from. That's I
Dude,
like
really?
that particular. Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
Like because I primarily listen to American folk, and
Not American Woman.
no, not American Woman.
I thought you were going to say primarily.
primarily.
I'm always listening.
60% of my listening on Spotify. I'm number one. I'm actually top 1% for Lenny Kravitz. That cover in particular. And then I'm top 2% for the Guess Who. So
Guess Who,
no, it's a lot of it is songs that are, in all honesty, mid, but the chorus has a really good harmony to it, and that's enough to draw me in, right? I cannot sing for garbage, but like a song that'll make me like burst out and sing every single time I listen to it, because of like me wanting to just be a part of that harmony, to me is an A+ track. You know,
will you drop me that playlist link?
Oh, for sure. I need to do a culling of it because it's got a lot of Mumford & Sons on it. It's got a lot of Mumford & Sons on it. It's a different time.
It's fine. Come as you are. It's fine.
Yeah, we'll do. I'll send it your way. I'll throw it over.
It's weird that you say that though, because I was just thinking about that myself. In the genres that I like. It's like if there's one good harmony in there, it like hooks me. And I think part of the reason is also because I don't think I can really sing harmony. Even I listen to the Beatles all the time and they have pretty distinctive voices, but I've heard their songs over and over again and I still can't, when they hit a harmony, like pull it out. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like separate who's high. And I think it gets down to like the utter mystery and magic of music. Because it's like, I feel like it's something I almost like can't achieve. And it's not even an instrument or a keyboard. It's literally just the human voice. And it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think the word you used there was mystical. And I agree with that. Like it feels like it's got an energy to it, an aura that is like inaccessible. And maybe that's just from a music plebeian, like somebody who's not able to execute on a harmony, right? Maybe it's a part of just, viewing the other, and that can be, in a way, mystical.
It's funny you mention that because in music history, the tri-vocal form that was for a long time considered a standard in the Christian world because it was triune, was said to have, like spiritual significance, right? The sacred music kind of, I think, links into that pretty well.
I believe it. No.
Have you heard that our tuning isn't actually the same as it used to be in like ancient days? Like their frequency for their like bass C essentially was like different.
Really?
So then
they built the whole thing differently then off of that?
Yeah.
Huh.
So we're talking like Gregorian chant style stuff was probably sung differently, or
possibly. And what's weird about it though is like you've had your guitar like kind of out of tune before probably. So you're probably hitting some of those notes anyway that it's just like maybe they were like halfway, like just a barely off the C or something. But
they just didn't have a tuning fork.
It's just a unit of measurement, right? Like we have the inch. It's like I don't know. It's kind of arbitrary.
Yeah. Applied mathematics is my favorite way to describe music.
Yeah,
because it was functionally invented by Pythagoras, who was a magician. His followers didn't believe he was sort of a magician, but musician.
Is that why it's still like a circle? Like a lot of times the diagram of like A to F and how they all connect and
and we use numericals for.
Explain the triad a little bit, would you? I'm serious.
The triome or
the triad? Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, but like why? Explain what that is actually, just in layman's terms. Give it to me.
Like with the old.
Yeah, old Christian music.
Yeah, so essentially how it worked was there would be like a root note, but everything would have to be evenly spaced off of it. Because originally it was considered to be like, I don't know, some historians say blasphemous. Others would just say incredibly uncouth to have more than one person singing at the same time. Or to even have a person singing and playing an instrument, or for an instrument to be played and somebody singing. Like it was just one voice at all times. And then kind of graduated to 2, went to 3, and they were always evenly spaced by, like a 3 and a 5th interval, essentially just kind of creating chord structures. And, it would just be 3 voices singing in unison, the same note separated properly so that it would create like a basic harmony. And that's how all vocal performances
Weird
would
that they did a period of 2 and then to 3. You'd think
they go straight.
They would justify 3. You
gotta crawl first.
I don't know. I just if it's about blasphemy, uncouthness, then you'd think they would justify the 3 with the triune argument.
Yes,
earlier on.
Do you know much about me? Are you a music theorist, Shad? Like,
no.
Do they actually use the 1st, the 5th, and the 8th, or the 1st, the 3rd, and the? Is there anything?
As in from Hallelujah? Are we making a Hallelujah reference?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking of Jeff Buckley when I said that, but
okay.
Oh, you're thinking of not Leonard Cohen. You're thinking of Jeff Buckley. You're going straight to Jeff Buckley.
Or I could go on with Rufus Wainwright. It's actually a decent cover of it. But
No, I am not a music theorist. I did take a music history survey course though when I was in college, and that was something that we talked about as far as the development went. So, yeah, no, I'm no expert, but I do know a little bit about that, just a little bit. Enough
I think
to get me in trouble.
similarly, the civilization that I was thinking of that had that slightly off note structure from ours, I think it was like Far East, and they had similar rules of like, this is music, don't make organized sounds like outside of this. This is like the only shit you do. So it's like that thing you said about blasphemy and like mystical, like people used to take that really seriously.
Yes. You know, and there are people still who will hold it down that like music, if it is discordant, is committing some sort of psychic damage. You know, which I agree with, but not for the same reasons.
Somebody tell King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, dude.
Yeah, right.
Actually, they got to know they're committing blasphemy.
Yeah, actually, they'd probably be like, "That's rad."
That's exactly what we want to do.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's bad for you? Do you think it's just like music that isn't positive, isn't doing what it should, or what do you mean?
Because I listen to just almost primarily discordant and aggressive music. Like I'm big into like post-hardcore and stuff, just like really stuff that's very emotional, very loud.
See, Shad's not like other girls.
No, I am perfectly fine. I am like other girls. It's okay for me to be like other girls. This is something that I've even understood over the course of the last couple of years of this podcast, is that it's okay to be like other girls. That's fine. But I when I'm kind of in a position where I'm listening to a lot of that music, it does cause like an emotional place that you enter, where it's almost like the reason why I think young people are especially attracted to it is it's almost, and this is going to sound crass, but like masturbatory. You're like, it's just me and myself and just full of these things and emotions and all these things that I'm experiencing in my life, but they're like made manifest in this music, and I'm just really feeling it. And that's, that's good and that's fine. And I'm not saying that's bad, because I indulge in it all the time, but like, I do think it does have a, on balance, potentially negative effect on a person. If that's not crazy.
I will say. Oh, go for it, Josh.
No. I've been interrupting the whole time. This is
it's all good.
Sorry.
You have to, because there is a slight delay.
Yeah. This is If it was just us going off of perfect timing, then we would just bounce back and forth the entire time. The moments in my life where I have been listening to say Death Grips on a regular basis, kind of a thing, are times where I do feel the most insular mentally. Right. It's weird that you phrased it like that, because it's like, it's mostly about sort of breeding this general aggressive and emotional feeling in oneself. And it's not like a positive feeling, right? It's sort of taking that negative aggression and sort of bringing it to the forefront. And I think it's healthy because it helps expel that, and it lets you process it through the means of sort of experiencing it as opposed to acting on it or like going out and doing. So I'd say it's a generally positive thing, but I get the vibe where you're coming from here. It definitely, in my personal experience, has sort of been wrought out. Yeah, it makes sense.
We may solve if music is good or bad by the end of this. Good or evil, okay. I should say.
Good or evil.
Yeah.
On the whole.
Well, so you think that this should be applied? If I feel like one thing that we're qualified to talk about is whether or not the prequels are good or bad.
for humanity, just in general.
I don't know. Actually, to move away from the musical discussion for a brief moment, unless of course there's anything that you want to add, Josh, is there anything that you wish to?
Always, but let's keep moving.
Well, so one thing that you routinely talk about on the podcast is like
spoilers!
Every time,
exclamation point!
Spoilers! Exclamation point! Check it out
That's
on Spotify.
Important for search purposes.
Click on the orange spoilers logo and leave them a review, please.
Yeah, I will say, leave a comment on Spotify. I did today. I did.
All right, we'll get that read.
Yeah. Hell yeah, brother.
It's been a long time since you guys have read mail. I love it.
That I did search spoilers without an exclamation point. Not the right podcast.
That's true.
With an exclamation point.
Spoilers.
Correct.
Was that?
Podcast.
Did you find major spoilers? I think it might be like a D&D.
That one
podcast.
pops up for sure. That sounds correct. We're
gonna take them down.
Yeah. 1, step at a time. First, make friends with their members. Second, turn them on each other. Third, usurp them.
We may have someone
Fourth,
on the
profit.
inside right now. So
Yes.
Wow.
Just
You're not gonna
stay
say
tuned.
who, but Jeremy, watch yourself.
Something that comes up related to Star Wars is that you especially hate The Last Jedi.
Okay.
Is this correct? Am I picking up the notes properly?
I've been
on
trying
this?
not to think about this for a couple of years, sir. It kind of got
That's
in
fine.
the way of some friendships when it was still newer on the scene.
Yeah, dude, I agree. That's one of the craziest things about The Last Jedi is your opinion on that movie can disrupt your relationship to another person.
What year did that movie come out?
Oh man, I would say probably was the most divisive thing that came out of 2016. Is what I would say.
I was gonna say it feels like a 2016 thing.
Yeah.
2016 thing.
2017.
2017 is
All
what
right.
a producer Josh
We were
says.
still
Dude.
reeling from the Trump election. I think America wasn't ready for whatever Ryan Johnson had for us. The reason
I
so
love
the
that
reason I wanna-
sentence.
The reason why I wanted to ask you about this is because I feel like there's just been so much like culture war bullshit surrounding that movie.
Yeah.
And people have made so much weird hay with it, and now it's kind of become this like woke versus not woke thing. And I think there's something deeper to it. And I'm just curious sort of what your response is to that movie. And
I'll
because
talk about it.
Yeah, you should talk about it because I also kind of want to hear what you think about something that I've kind of come to the conclusion on with it. So first I'd like to hear sort of what your opinion is.
Okay.
Make you relive this trauma for us live on air.
I think for better or worse, where it stands now, it's in the upper echelon of Star Wars media. Now,
Yes.
pretty watered down now, but it still is in the upper echelon, and I'll admit that.
Definitely upper 50% for sure, I would say.
I know you got to hate the Rose stuff. What's the planet where they're riding and they're winning jackpots and there's
Dude,
Yes.
As a person that used to be able to name every planet ever, I could not tell you
Right.
the name of that damn casino planet.
that's rough.
Dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I think
Yeah.
that's fair. I actually really like Rey and Kylo falling in love through the Force. I think that's a really interesting thing to explore. I didn't hate that.
I love
Here's
the
my
pants.
issue. My biggest issue. Oh God, the Kylo pants, iconic. I can't believe more people aren't wearing that 2024 still. But
True.
Okay, go ahead.
the Luke Skywalker plot, he had always been my best favorite character from a small child. I was so hyped going into these movies for him. And the first one was like such a mean tease of him.
Yeah.
And I felt like this one wasted him. His death was almost like it wasn't off screen, but it's kind of like an off screen death.
Yeah.
And someone pointed out to me that like my criticism can't be that I just wish I wrote a character differently, and I've really been trying to take that to heart and not
that's
letting
reasonable.
go of this.
Yeah. It's really tough to justify a trickster's death for Luke and not a warrior's death, right? There's when it comes to like mythological archetypes, he is not a trickster.
Which George Lucas would be like, that's exactly.
100%.
I'm glad you're talking about mythological archetypes.
Yeah. Rhymes. It's like poetry. He dies by sort of giving up the ghost, the Force ghost, as it were, in such a way that's like, I gotcha, right? Luke has never been a gotcha guy, right? He has been, on the floor, direct confrontation with evil for so long that I get where you're coming from. For me, that was dissatisfying because it just felt like, and this is sadistic to say, but I would rather see him struck down viscerally, right, with a blade than sort of, gotcha disappears, maybe that's too, as you said, like my own interpretation of the character clouding my vision as to what his path should be. But I think one of the major issues with that film is that it was a Rian Johnson breaking of expectations. And
Oh, he loves that.
He loves it. He loves it, man.
He loves that.
Dude, I could, if you guys haven't done Glass Onion, I could complain about Glass Onion for hours. I could complain about that movie forever, dude.
We haven't. We did Knives Out, but we have not done Glass Onion. I'm pretty sure.
I don't even know if it's even worth doing. I could just complain about it, but
he's going to do more of those.
Yeah. I bet. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. You got Daniel Craig is like the core good thing about all that. People say he overacts, he overdoes it. I think it's charming, regardless. If you have been a fan of Star Wars since you were little, the breaking of expectations is not a fun thing to go through, right? And I'm gonna say that's not a dismerit towards the movie. In fact, it might be a merit, right?
Yes.
But for one's own personal viewing experience, that's really tough. It's really hard, especially you're in the theater. You have these expectations as to what Star Wars is. It's completely broken. Maybe cool that this happens from the abstract, but on the ground, that takes the wind out of your sails.
I think a lot of it comes down to screen time too.
True.
I was so happy they're bringing him back, and I wasn't mad that he like pulled the lightsaber on Kylo. You know, I feel like that actually kind of is right. He's kind of the gray Jedi. He should be dabbling in some dark shit, and it's tough because a lot of it, I feel like I'm starting to dig into my own psychology and like,
I get that.
I played way too much Battlefront, the first two that were actually good.
Of course, those are great games.
Hell yeah,
and
us as well.
My buddy always beat my ass when he was Darth Maul, and I was always trying to hang on with these
doing those dumbass ragdolls where you're like doing full cartwheels.
Unstoppable though, to take like 20 dudes out at once with that thing. I don't know, Shad. What do you think about Luke in The Last Jedi? Like, where do you land on The Last Jedi in general, and specifically Luke? Just for me, I want to know.
Well, specifically for Luke, I think that his character is just sacrificed for the sake of the thesis statement of the movie, right? Which is something that I've sort of grown to kind of weirdly appreciate, is what Dylan was talking about, where it's like this shattering of expectations. It was almost freeing, because like I've really hated that movie. I hated it so much, and I was like constantly, I was falling down the rage bait YouTube rabbit holes, and like just like every frame.
The moment we walked out of that theater, it
was on. The second we walked out, just that was the worst thing I've ever seen, etc. But I sort of feel like it told me I didn't need to give a shit about Star Wars, you know? And
I don't think that's what Kathleen Kennedy wanted.
It's not what Kathleen Kennedy wanted. No, definitely not what she wanted, but I almost kind of feel like that's what he wanted. You know,
how many times do they say "let go of the past" or "forget the past"? Is that the line? Right?
And they're burning, the burning of the sacred text thing and whatnot. And it's supposed to sort of like, it feels like at the moment, they're lampshading the fact that they don't give a shit about anything. It's like, okay, well, potentially, but also maybe he's just trying to say like, I don't know, in a weird way, like grow up. And like, it's fine for anybody of any age to enjoy these things. But part of me was like, oh, I can just like Star Wars being bad isn't something that has to affect how happy I am. You know what I mean? Now, it took me like 2-3 years to fully reach this opinion, right? I had to go through like multiple iterations of it. But I think that him just being so flippant with Luke and treating him so poorly was just sort of like this middle finger to anybody who ever gave a shit about Star Wars ever. And yeah, that's a terrible thing for him to do. And in the moment, terrible. It's terrible for the franchise. I think the franchise has not recovered since then, you know?
No.
But in the long run, was it better for me? Maybe. I don't know.
I like a lot of what you said there, Shad. I love what you said about him being sacrificed for the thesis of the movie.
Yeah.
There's that one little line in there that I feel like it's pretty obvious your therapist told you that your happiness does not rely on Star Wars. Like, you had to write that down in your notebook like a few times to convince yourself of this reality.
It
wasn't my therapist. It was the guy I called for like 3 hours twice a week, my friend, during the pandemic. So it was basically a therapist. Basically a therapist.
It's like, listen, man, that's so funny.
Yeah. I mean, like, what do you feel like? Just has the whole thing like changed? Like your relationship with franchises, your relationship with Star Wars, like, are your expectations different now? I feel like that's potentially a good thing.
I think I have let go of the past, dude. So, like, it's worked. You know, we might just be when you at first said like the revisionist history of Star Wars earlier in the pod, I thought you were kind of talking about like the Kenobi story and how they've kind of retconned small things here and there. So there's also the whole issue with Star Wars of just being a little bit. They got like the MCU syndrome, just like overwhelming. You have to see everything.
Other Josh right now is watching the Clone Wars with his son.
Yes.
And I feel like Fellini has his esteem has like done a whole 180, at least from what I've seen from internet discourse, where for a long time they're like, this guy cares so much about the source material and he's doing such a good job. And now it's like, now that everything is just Fellinified, everybody's like, oh, I hate this guy. It's a strange turn. But yeah, no, it is very MCU. There's so many characters, so many different shows and whatnot, and like The Mandalorian was good for a season and a half, and we all pretended everything was back. Right. Yeah, I don't know. It's strange to me. Watching the Baby Yoda thing become the number one cultural touchstone has been
during COVID.
During COVID
of all
we
time,
needed
all
that.
times, to the point where now we're getting Baby Gru in the new Despicable Me movie. You know what I mean? Like the impact is.
I didn't hear about this. There's a Baby Gru.
There's Baby Gru. There is Baby Gru.
No, I think that the biggest sort of just deep valley that came from that is the Mr. Peanut from the Super Bowl commercial sort of build up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So like they spent months building up Baby Mr. Peanut. He was a baby for maybe a month and a half after the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And they just completely to think that there's a canon attached to Mr. Peanut. No.
Yeah.
What have we become?
What have we become?
What have we become? No, the MCU thing I think is the thing that irritates me the most about Star Wars right now.
I'm glad we're just like three guys
talking about
about the Star Wars movies.
Three white dudes talking about Star Wars.
Oh man, Last Jedi was so bad. Last Jedi was so bad.
What's more podcast?
Did you look at Laura Dern's hair, dude?
I think Solo is the one that did this the worst out of the sort of main.
Did you watch
films.
the Book of Boba Fett?
I did not. I did not watch Book of Boba Fett. But Solo did, I think, this particular aspect the worst, where it was we are setting up an extended universe, right? Which is weird because Star Wars has always been an extended universe, right? I mean, almost off the gate, we're getting novels that expand on the world, on what's going on.
Well, the first one is episode 4, right? Like A New Hope is episode 4.
I said this on a podcast recently and got
I know it wasn't when it
this.
first came out in theater.
I know,
but
it wasn't named that originally. I got kind of.
Well, what you're saying, it has the truth to it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. So like, it's always had like there's a world outside. You know, people are playing around in it. But now the same thing with the MCU. There's an expectation that to participate, now you got to be in it, right? Like now you got to go out and watch all this other stuff, right? Like if you are ready for the next Star Wars film, if you've seen all of Acolyte, right? You better, you son of a bitch, better watch Acolyte if you want to enjoy the next Star Wars film. And you're going to like it. You're going to like it too.
And that's tough because it's really natural and easy to see like a completion to something and want to feel satisfied with that. Like we all watched Endgame and Explosion War and we're like, this is a good place for this to end.
My favorite... Yeah,
you should tell the story about your wife in that movie.
My wife went and watched Endgame without watching a single Marvel film before watching it.
She probably had a great time.
Oh,
honestly.
She did. She was like, this is the best Western I've ever seen. For context, my wife is a Golden Age film enjoyer, so she watches a lot of like old studio stuff and old Hollywood stuff, which has allowed me to watch a lot of old Hollywood stuff, which has been fun.
Yes.
But you know, I like a good Western now. That being said, I think you're right on the right on the head there. It's weird when the feeling of watching Endgame was so nice because it was like a completion of everything that had come before it. But then what they're doing is they're trying to like manufacture that by going wide. They're like, okay, well, so what if we did it even more?
Yeah.
And the completion was even more satisfying because there's more content to enjoy to lead up to it. Love it. Just love it. It's great. I have all the time in the world.
You're going to call it Explosion War on this podcast from now on, right?
That's the plan.
I don't know what guest that was who recently called it that, but that was one of the hardest I've ever laughed.
Something I didn't.
Yeah.
You guys were talking about Endgame, and they said Explosion War, and Shad started to call him out a little bit, but then it just got lost in conversation, and I couldn't like let it go because it's so perfect.
Vince would say,
yeah.
I want a movie called Explosion War. It sounds sick.
Yeah.
What you would do is you would do an Expendable style cinematic universe around Explosion War. So you would have
widely reach Explosion.
Yeah, you would have all sorts of different one-off films with action stars, and they would come together for Explosion War.
A bunch of de-aged guys on teas, on testosterone therapy coming back for one last job.
Hell yeah, dude.
This is going to sound incredibly off topic. We're about to reach hour here, but I don't know. Do you think you could stay around for the Patreon? If not, that's fine. Is that something that you worked into the plan? If not, you don't worry about it at all.
No expectation.
You're good to go.
I don't really know what that entails, so maybe we can.
It's another half hour of recording, but up to you. Don't worry about it.
Do we have to start? Does this stop at an hour on the? Your pods are usually a little over an hour. They're not like 59, right? Okay.
Yes. I'm just debating whether or not I want to say this now or on the Patreon.
Do it now, dude.
How about a little tease? Just a little tease.
How about a little tease?
Tease everybody, dude.
So I've actually been reading a lot about gambling theory and specifically the psychology of the slot machine.
Dude, we'll save this for the Patreon, brother.
But this actually relates directly to the Marvel Cinematic Universe because much like the way that gaming has been turned into, as in video games, the way that gambling has been turned into, the way that we consume film and movies, it's about the whales. It's about the people who sit down and they overconsume the one thing over and over and over again. And I was reading this book about it's called Architects of Addiction, I believe is what it's called. It came out in 2008, and it's about this exact thing. So it might be worth us talking about in the Patreon if that's something you want to stick around for, Josh. If not, that's fine. But at the end of the day,
sit around and talk about our addictions during the Patreon. You couldn't have sold it more clearly. Thank you.
You don't have to go to your 12 step this week. You can skip out on AA. You know, we fulfill that requirement here.
And you don't need a therapist. You can just talk to someone on the phone for a couple hours every
exactly pacing back.
I will say though, during COVID, therapy was talking to some person on the phone for a couple of hours.
That's true.
Yeah, in my particular instance, it was. That's a story for another time. I think I've told that, right? I don't. Josh probably hasn't heard this, but it was. My therapist texted me and said, "Hey, so when do you want to schedule the next appointment?" And then I forgot to respond to them, and that was the last I ever heard from my therapist.
Oh, what?
And I was like,
whoa.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, that therapist, I could have died. You know, I could have done something drastic, and he would have no idea what happened.
No idea what happened.
Would not have known.
No idea what happened.
There you go. Beautiful.
Does
stuff.
a 2 weeks work with a therapist like any normal job? Just 2 weeks and you're
like,
dipped out in Cabo,
yeah.
I think is that how jobs work?
I think a 2 week notice is fairly typical professional.
The way that you were describing it when you said dipped out in Cabo, I thought you meant you could be absent for 2 weeks and they can't fire you. And I'm like, I don't know about that.
No, 2 weeks notice. Like I know I've been your therapist and there's no warning, or like your family doctor. Like, I've never really thought about that. They deserve a 2 week notice, just like anyone, right?
Or they at least deserve to reach out and try to find that 2 week notice, as opposed to just sort of accepting, like, he's a lost cause, he's a goner.
They're professionals. They have their Rolodex full of freaks who they care about.
Are you putting?
You mean like sometimes I get anxious, and they're like, all right. I got a guy who wants to kill his wife on the other line.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Hangs up.
So your situation is therapist. When do you want to make your next appointment? You, silence. Therapist. That's cool. Like, that's
sounds
it.
good.
That was
this is
the
totally
whole.
not indicative of all of the problems you've talked to me about for months now. This is just status quo.
I'm sorry about that, sir.
Hey, you know what?
You didn't deserve that.
No, hey. I learned this the other day. The Japanese, they got a phrase for it is what it is. Shogunai. Shogunai. It is what it is.
Yeah.
I thought that was just a Bill Belichick thing.
He says that?
Dude, it's like his way of saying nothing whenever they ask him something at a press conference. So, like, did you think about putting more pressure on the quarterback in the second half? It is what it is. Okay.
I think that is confidence, right? That's like the Marshawn Lynch school of being in a press conference, right?
Yeah.
The act of not answering a question is answering it in by saying, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys would love this. Crap. I forget what basketball player it was. They recently got eliminated from the NBA playoffs, but
is this the guy that is into Star Wars?
No. This
is a different guy.
He gets asked a question by a reporter, and he goes, "Excuse me, are you subscribed to my podcast?" And she's like, "No, I'm not." And he was like, "Then leave this circle. I don't want you asking me any questions." He was gatekeeping his post-game interview
Was it Pat Bev? Oh, okay, it was Pat Bev. Okay.
Dang it.
I was thinking of basketball players who have podcasts, and it's just Pat
that's
Bev.
like going to a family gathering. And being like, how have you been this last year? And they're like, well, have you been listening to my podcast? Because I go in depth about it the entire time. You wouldn't even ask this question because I've been answering it for months.
I also ranked every fast food condiment, so don't ask me questions about barbecue sauce.
About
my cousin asked me about The Last Jedi, and I slapped him and said, "Haven't you listened to Monomaniacs?
Come on,
Come
dude.
on."
Come on, no respect in this household.
Oh man. That was the year spoilers started, wasn't it? 2017?
It was actually 2016.
Yeah,
okay.
8 years. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Dude, it's an old pod. Yeah.
Yeah, 500 eps. That's a lot. It's a lot of eps.
Yeah.
What
You guys are coming close.
Go ahead.
You guys are coming close to 100.
We are.
Yeah. Do we want to tell them?
I told him over text message.
Yeah,
we're thinking about. We're probably going to go on a bit of a hiatus after episode.
I don't like
100.
that. I don't.
Yeah.
No one likes to hear that. That's
I know,
terrible,
I know.
difficult news. I don't know if you're set in stone with that.
Yeah,
but-
we recorded our 100th before we
talked
recorded
to
this
you.
episode.
Yeah. So guys, you look forward to that episode. It's a lot of fun. We have Sammy and Jimmy two good old friends on the show. We rip Brant Cohen, who I doubt you've listened to an episode that actually has Brant Cohen on it. Have you?
I don't think so. No.
Okay, but he comes up every episode. It feels like
We talk shit about him all the time.
Yeah.
Jane O'Connor is my buddy. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah,
she's been on the pod several times.
Yeah,
she's given me a little bit of the background and told me about the pending hiatus. Yeah, we both just don't like it. I don't know. Just continue to rethink and upthink that. I don't know.
So the plan is to kind of just take a little while and start.
See, here's
relax.
the thing.
Relax,
Josh.
a little
Let me be clear with you. Let me be clear. Shad, 2 weeks ago was like 100%. We're done forever. This is it. Show's over.
Is this on the Patreon right now? Should you be saying this?
No, we can. Because the 100, we posted on our Patreon that we were going to take a hiatus anyway. I mean, it's public knowledge at this point. He was like, "We're done. We're good. We're forever. It's over." And I was like, "Okay, sounds fine. We'll roll out the conclusion." And then he was like, "Every time I've met with him since, he said, well, like we'll just make sure it's open just in case we come back." And then it's like, well, it's a hiatus, so we could really come back at any time.
Leave
and then
the
it's
door
like, well,
cracked just this
this crack. Listen, if we get that sweet spoilers windfall, right? If the spoilers windfall comes in and props up this pod, who knows? But goodness,
that would be amazing. If there was a spoilers windfall.
Yeah. Well, just get ready for that
existed.
Monomaniacs windfall.
Yeah,
dude.
exactly. You think the spoilers windfall is big? Get ready for the Monomaniacs windfall. Man. Okay, well, if anything, we should. If you want to stick around, we should probably switch to the Patreon, if anything. So, feel free. Pitch one more time. Tell us about your podcast. Tell them about spoilers. I will say, preface, I am a big fan. I met Josh when I was out to record a podcast that will never be published with Jane O'Connor and Josh, and he told me about the podcast. I listened to it on the drive home, and I basically haven't stopped listening to it since. So, that is my claim to this show. You guys really should listen. But Josh, if there's anything else you want to say.
Super kind of you. Just like in spoilers, we always leave time for final thoughts at the end and a yes or no.
Of course.
I would give Monomaniacs a huge yes. Thanks for having me on.
Josh. That I literally, my heart warmed in that moment. I was like,
I'm only saying that because we didn't. Yeah. You're only saying that because we didn't make you do trivia.
Yeah.
Dude. No, yeah, that's correct. I hate trivia, which is also part of spoilers. But spoilers with an exclamation mark podcast. We talk about movies. It's usually once a week. Sometimes we go crazy and dump 7 episodes in one day, like Lord of the Rings. Sometimes it's not our full-time job and we have to go like almost a month and just release one, which always sucks. But honestly, I see a lot of similarities between this podcast and spoilers. So if you like Monomaniacs, maybe give spoilers a quick listen, and especially listen to the primer episode where me and Shad will go back in time before this episode is ever recorded and talk as if it's one of the first times we ever met.
A picture of an earlier version of the relationship. Right.
That's
in
true.
that
Exactly.
instance,
That's true.
yes. I will say I did not give my full-hearted recommendation. I give spoilers a Viggo Mortensen hard yes.
God. No.
So do with that what you will.
Pappy, who is like my good bud, he's like arguably the creator of spoilers, although he hates it when we call him that. He loves Time Bandits, and I would be amiss to not call out Shad about how you recently said you watched it and you said it's a bad movie. I kind of agree, but Pappy would want me to give you some shit. So just
Okay, that's good. On the podcast, I called him out because he sort of caved to the other guys who hated Time Bandits. Mikey was like, "This movie sucks so bad." He was like, "Oh, I thought it was fine." That was ages ago. That was ages ago. Though. That was ages ago. Okay. Well,
thank you guys so much. This was awesome. I loved hanging out with you all. Thanks for having me on, y'all.
All right. Well, God bless everybody. Bye.